Ladies and gentlemen, fathers, husbands, brothers, sons, hear me now. Because tonight somewhere a woman is sitting in the dark. Not because the lights went out, but because you did. You see, we live in a world where a man's absence can break more than hearts. It can break a soul. It can destroy trust. It can make a woman question her worth, her beauty, her identity. And I ask you, have you ever stood outside on a freezing night? Felt the sting of winter bite through your coat, through your skin? That's how it feels when love turns cold. When the promises you made became the snow she's now walking through. Alone. Stay with me. Don't turn away. Because this message isn't just about her pain. It's about your heart. What you've done. What you've become. And what you still have the chance to make right. There is a kind of pain that doesn't show up on X-rays. You can't stitch it. You can't medicate it. It's the pain of being left behind by someone who once said, "I'll never leave you." When you walked away, or worse, stayed physically but left emotionally, something inside her began to wither. She gave you warmth, and you returned silence. She gave you loyalty, and you returned distance. She stood by you in every storm, but when it got cold, you became the storm. Abandonment doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, in the quiet nights when she wonders what she did wrong. But let me tell you something. She didn't do wrong. You did. And it's time to own that. You don't hear her anymore. But she still cries. Not with tears, but in her spirit. When you left, she didn't just lose a man. She lost her covering. She feels the cold of every unanswered call, every broken promise, every day you let your pride speak louder than your presence, and the world applauds strong men, doesn't it? Men who grind, men who hustle. But God is looking for a different kind of man, a man who stays, a man who listens, a man who holds her when she's breaking, not walks away because she's too much to handle. While you scroll, she waits. While you chase success, she's praying for the man you used to be. While you justify, she suffers silently. But God hears her cries, and if God hears her, you better believe He holds you accountable. That's the question. Where were you when life hit her hardest, when her heart was fragile, when she needed more than your paycheck? She needed your protection. Where were you? We are not called to be boys who flee, but men who cover. To cover means to stand in the gap, to fight for her heart, to hold the umbrella when life pours down, but you walked away, emotionally, spiritually, maybe even physically, and now she's left to weather a storm you were supposed to shield her from. Do you know what that makes you? Not just absent, but accountable. Because you knew what she needed and you didn't give it. Not because you couldn't, but because you chose not to. But here's the part we miss. The cold didn't just touch her. It's gotten to you, too. You don't feel anymore, do you? You've become numb. Numb to her tears. Numb to your own conscience. Numb to God's voice. And cold men produce broken homes. Cold hearts destroy what warm hearts build. That coldness, it's not strength, it's decay, but there's still time. Time to soften. Time to feel again. You weren't created to be distant. You weren't made for apathy. You were made to love like Christ, and with strength, with sacrifice, with tenderness. But let me tell you the good news. No matter how cold you've become, no matter how long she suffered, there is still hope. Because we serve a God who restores, a God who takes broken men and makes them whole, a God who heals what we shattered. Redemption is not a feeling. It's a decision to apologize, to return, to rebuild, to show her that the man who left her in the cold doesn't have to be the man who finishes the story. But it starts with humility. It starts with repentance. It starts with the courage to say, "I was wrong. Forgive me. Let me earn back what I lost." I believe tonight God is calling some men to come back home, and not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. You left her in the cold, but you don't have to leave her there. You can walk back into the house, not just with your boots, but with your heart. You can become the warmth she's been praying for, but you must choose. The cold will always try to pull you back. Pride will tell you it's too late. But love, real love, calls you to the light, to responsibility, to sacrifice, to be the man God designed you to be. She needs it. You need it. The world needs it. So I ask you now, will you stay out in the cold, or will you come back into the warmth of truth, humility, and love? The choice is yours. But know this, every second you wait, she's still out there, shivering, waiting, hoping. Don't let her wait another day. There is a pain deeper than betrayal, deeper than conflict, deeper even than the harshest words ever spoken. It is the pain of being forgotten by someone who once promised to stay. It's a slow, icy ache that creeps into the bones of the soul, not all at once, but day by day, word by unspoken word, glance by averted glance. She remembers how you once held her with warmth in your eyes, how your words were once blankets that wrapped her in security. She believed you. She trusted that your presence would be a place of refuge. But now the warmth is gone. Your smile turned into silence. Your attention became absence. And the place where love once lived now feels colder than any winter night. When a man turns cold, when love fades, not because it has to, but because he lets it, the woman he once held begins to freeze, not her skin, but her spirit. You didn't have to yell to hurt her. You didn't have to strike her to break her. All you had to do was stop seeing her, stop hearing her, stop caring enough to show up. That's how the shiver starts. First, it's confusion. Is he just tired? Distracted? Then it becomes anxiety. Did I do something wrong? And finally, it becomes a quiet despair. Maybe I'm not enough. That's what abandonment does. It convinces a woman that the absence of your love is somehow her fault. And that's the cruelest kind of cold, the kind that doesn't just leave her alone, but makes her blame herself for the loneliness. And the world around her keeps spinning. She gets up, puts on her face, does her work, smiles for the kids, smiles for the neighbors. But behind those smiles, she is freezing. She is holding on to memories like they're firewood, trying to stay warm with what used to be. You left her out there. Maybe not on purpose, but that doesn't change the effect. Maybe you thought you were just going through a hard time. Maybe you told yourself you were still there, even if you weren't emotionally present. But what matters isn't the justification you carry, it's the reality she's living in. And that reality feels like standing barefoot on ice, while the one person who could bring warmth stands across the room pretending nothing's wrong. The truth is, when a man leaves emotionally, when he stops protecting the heart of the woman who once trusted him with everything, it doesn't just wound her, it freezes her. And the longer she stays out in that cold, the harder her own heart has to become just to survive. She starts building walls where she once built bridges. She starts folding in on herself because she's tired of reaching for someone who won't reach back. You may not hear her crying anymore, but that doesn't mean she's not hurting. Some wounds go silent when the pain becomes too familiar, and by the time you notice, the damage may have already carved itself deep into her soul. She doesn't scream. She doesn't slam doors or shout down hallways. Her pain is quieter than that. It's the kind of cry you'll never hear unless you're truly listening. The kind that echoes only in the silence of a cold room, long after you've walked out or turned away. She cries in the space between your text replies, in the ache of a dinner eaten in silence, in the long nights staring at the ceiling while your back is turned. Her heart has been speaking, but you stopped listening long ago, and now her tears no longer fall from her eyes. They fall from her spirit, invisible to everyone but God. You thought that because she wasn't saying anything, she was fine. You thought that because she didn't leave, she wasn't hurting. But silence is not peace. Sometimes silence is the loudest kind of scream, the one that says, "I've tried everything and nothing reaches you." She was once full of light, full of words, full of laughter and dreams. You remember that woman, the one who used to glow when you walked into the room. But over time, that light started to flicker, not because she changed, but because she was slowly being dimmed. She still talked, but you didn't hear her. She still reached for you, but your arms didn't move. She still smiled, but it no longer reached her eyes. And now, her silence isn't apathy. It's exhaustion. It's the last defense of someone who once gave everything and received nothing in return. You say she's distant, but it was your distance that taught her how to survive. You say she's cold, but it was your absence that made her build the walls you now complain about. She walks through her days performing 1,000 unseen miracles, raising children, keeping the home, working her job, praying for you, and yet you don't see her. You don't ask how she's holding up. You don't notice the tears she hides when she turns her face. You don't hear the way her voice trembles when she says she's okay. And that's the tragedy. Not just that she's hurting, but that the man who once knew her best no longer sees what's happening right in front of him. She cries, out in the winter night of your relationship, hoping you'll hear her. Not with your ears, but with your heart. Hoping you'll look at her and see the woman who's still standing there, cold and tired, waiting for the version of you that used to care. The saddest part is that you once had the ability to comfort her with just your presence, to calm her with your voice, to hold her heart like it was treasure. But now you're the reason she flinches when love is mentioned. You're the reason she keeps her thoughts to herself, because every time she opened up, you shut down. And now her silence is the only thing she trusts. Where were you when the weight of the world fell on her shoulders? Where were you when the tears came at night and she had no one to wipe them away? Where were you when the anxiety, the exhaustion, the fear took hold of her and she looked for comfort in the place you used to be? You told her once that you'd always be there, through the joy and the chaos, through the sunshine and the storm. But when the storm came, you didn't just step back, you disappeared. And maybe you were in the house, maybe you were in the room, but you were not present. You were not available. She didn't need your money. She didn't need your promises. She didn't need you to fix everything. She just needed you. She needed your eyes to see her, your heart to understand her, your arms to protect her when the rest of the world felt like it was falling apart. She was breaking in silence while you were scrolling your phone. She was drowning in responsibility while you were chasing distractions. And the truth is, you weren't gone because you had to be. You were gone because you chose to be. There's a difference between being busy and being blind. And somewhere along the way, you stopped looking. You stopped noticing the fatigue in her eyes. You stopped hearing the desperation in her voice. You stopped showing up in the moments when she needed to know she wasn't in this alone. The vows you made, the love you once gave, the covering you promised. You let it all fall when she needed it the most. Do you know what it's like for a woman to carry everything every day while silently wondering if she even matters to the man she gave her life to? Do you know what it does to her soul when she reaches out and finds nothing but cold walls where warmth used to live? She didn't ask for perfection. She asked for presence. She didn't ask you to have all the answers. She just needed to know you were fighting beside her. But when the battle got heavy, she looked around and found that you were gone, emotionally withdrawn, spiritually numb, physically distant. You left her alone in a war that was never meant to be fought. Alone. And still she carried on. Still she loved you through it. Still she hoped you would notice, hoped you would return to the man you were. But every unspoken need she endured became another brick in the wall between you. And now you wonder why she's hardened. Now you complain that she's changed. But the truth is, she became who she had to be in the absence of the man you were supposed to be. She stood in the fire alone. She faced the night without a hand to hold. She wore strength like armor because she knew no one was coming to save her, not even the one who promised he would. It didn't happen all at once. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to stop caring. It was gradual, slow, subtle, like a house growing colder by the hour because someone forgot to feed the fire. You stopped noticing things. Her smile no longer moved you. Her tears didn't shake you. Her silence didn't concern you. And somewhere along the way, your soul began to to harden, not because you were evil, but because you stopped being intentional. You stopped checking in with your own heart, and in doing so, you started to lose it. That's how numbness begins, not with cruelty, but with neglect, not with hatred, but with indifference. You thought you were being strong, calm, composed, but what you were becoming was cold, distant, unreachable, and now, without even realizing it, you are no longer the man who once held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. You've become a stranger in your own story. The worst kind of cold isn't the kind that touches your skin. It's the kind that buries itself in your spirit. It's when you stop feeling conviction, when you no longer flinch at your own absence, when your excuses feel more comfortable than your responsibilities. You used to be present. You used to be tender. You used to show up, speak life, lead with love. Now you shrug. You delay. You retreat. You hide behind your work, your phone, your silence. And all the while, she is watching you disappear in front of her, not with your body, but with your heart. And what makes it even more tragic is that you don't even realize the transformation happening inside you. You've become okay with being emotionally unavailable, okay with being spiritually passive, okay with surviving rather than loving. But let me ask you, what kind of legacy does a numb soul leave behind? What do your children see when they look at you? Do they see warmth, guidance, affection? Or do they see a man who has mastered the art of being physically present and emotionally absent? A man who knows how to fix things with his hands but cannot reach with his heart? She sees it. She feels it every day. And your numbness, your coldness, doesn't just hurt her. It hurts you. It isolates you from the very thing that once made life beautiful. From the laughter, the connection, the intimacy, the depth, because you can't love halfway. You can't protect what you no longer feel. You can't lead what you've stopped seeing. And yet, the worst deception of a numb soul is that it believes it's fine. It believes silence is peace. It believes detachment is wisdom. But that lie is what's destroying everything you were called to nurture. You think you're holding it together by keeping your emotions buried, by refusing to engage, by staying in control. But what you're actually doing is slowly freezing every relationship you touch, beginning with the one that matters most. Redemption doesn't begin in strength. It begins in brokenness. It starts in the place where you finally admit that you've failed, that you've wounded her, that you've let your pride speak louder than your love. And yet right there, in that moment of truth, something sacred begins. Because the same God who watched you walk away is also the God who welcomes you back. The same God who saw her tears sees your remorse, if you would just stop running long enough to feel it. Redemption is not reserved for the perfect. It's not a reward for those who never fall. It is a gift for the man who falls hard and dares to get up with humility in his heart. It is for the man who's ready to lay down his excuses and pick up the pieces of what he broke, not with arrogance, but with repentance. You see, you can't undo the cold. You can't reverse the things you said, the nights you stayed silent, the moments you chose distance over presence. But what you can do is change the direction of your steps. You can walk back into the fire you abandoned. You can step back into the heart you froze. You can rebuild, not because you deserve to, but because grace still makes it possible. Redemption doesn't erase the past. It writes a new future. It doesn't pretend the pain never happened. It proves that pain doesn't get the final word, but it requires something rare and powerful: ownership. You can't shift the blame to her. You can't say, "If only she had," or "She never understood." No, sir. This part is yours. This responsibility belongs to you. And the moment you take it, the moment you truly humble yourself, everything begins to change. She doesn't need you to come back with grand speeches or flowers or dramatic gestures. She needs you to come back with truth in your eyes and conviction in your voice. She needs to see the man you once were, or maybe even better, the man you've never dared to be until now. She needs to feel safety again, not in your promises, but in your consistency. She needs to hear the words, "I was wrong," and see the actions that follow. Your presence when it's inconvenient, your kindness when you're tired, your love when it costs you something. Redemption is not an event, it's a journey, a decision that must be made day after day after day. And here's the miracle of it all. Redemption doesn't just restore what was broken between you and her, it restores you. The man you thought you lost, the one buried under shame and silence, he's still in there. God has not given up on you. Your story is not finished. And no matter how far you've drifted, no matter how cold your heart has become, there is still a way back. She never needed you to be a hero. She wasn't waiting for a man with all the answers, all the right words, all the perfect timing. What she longed for was something far simpler and far rarer. Your presence. Not just your physical presence, but your emotional, mental, and spiritual nearness. The kind of presence that listens when she's quiet and leans in when she's distant. The kind of presence that doesn't rush to fix or to win or to escape, but chooses to stay, to sit, to stand with her in the mess. She wasn't asking you to be flawless. She was asking you to show up with your heart open and your eyes awake to who she is, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The truth is, you didn't have to make $1 million or build her a castle. She would have been happy with 5 honest minutes of your attention. She would have given anything just to have you truly see her, to notice her weariness, to ask her how she's really doing and then care enough to stay for the answer. She didn't need perfection. She needed consistency. She didn't want a man who conquered the world and lost his home. She wanted a man who would choose her every day, even when he was tired, even when he was stressed, even when the world was pulling at him from every direction. Because when a woman loves deeply, she's not impressed by your accolades. She's moved by your willingness to be present with her in the ordinary. But instead, you pulled away. Not all at once, but gradually. A missed call, a rushed conversation, a distracted dinner, 1,000 little moments that told her she was no longer the priority. And still she gave grace. Still, she hoped. Still, she waited for the man she once knew, the one who used to look at her like she was the only one in the room. And when he didn't come back, she began to grieve. Not loudly, but slowly, quietly. She stopped asking. She stopped reminding. She stopped reaching. Not because she didn't love you, but because it hurt too much to keep knocking on a door that never opened. You may think she expected too much, but that's because you've forgotten how little it actually takes to make someone feel valued. A hand on her back, a phone put away during dinner, a question asked with sincerity. These things don't cost you anything except your ego, your distractions, your detachment. But they give her everything. Her heart was never asking for a flawless man. She was only asking for the man who promised to be there. She would have walked with you through fire. All she needed was to know you'd be there, hand in hand, heart in heart. But you chose distance. You chose silence. You chose to give your best energy to everything else while she settled for your leftovers. So now the question remains, what will you do with what you've heard? Because you cannot claim ignorance anymore. You've heard her pain. You've felt the chill of the silence you left behind. You've seen the woman you once vowed to protect now wrapped in armor she never wanted to wear. This isn't just about regret. This is about responsibility. This is about realizing that love isn't proven in the promise. It's proven in the presence. She didn't need you to be a king on a throne. She needed you to be a man on his knees, willing to fight for what he nearly lost. Maybe tonight, for the first time in a long time, your heart is beginning to thaw. Maybe the numbness you've lived with is starting to crack under the weight of conviction. That's not weakness. That's grace. That's God reaching into the cold place where you've been hiding and saying, "Son, it's time to come home, not just to your house, but to your heart, to the man she believed in, to the love that once burned pure and bright before it got buried in silence and pride. This is your moment, not to explain, not to defend, but to return, to stand in front of the woman you wounded and not try to fix it all in one breath, but to simply say, I see you, I'm sorry, And I'm here now, fully, humbly, consistently. Because love, real love, isn't measured in words. It's measured in presence, in repentance, in redemption. She waited in the cold longer than she should have. And yet, by some miracle, there may still be a flame inside her heart that refuses to die. Fan that flame. Don't take another step in silence. Don't waste another night pretending everything's fine. If there is breath in your lungs and conviction in your chest, it is not too late, but you have to move. Now. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now go to her, speak to her, sit with her, stay with her. Because after all she's endured, after all the nights she cried in the cold, after all the strength she had to carry alone, she deserves to know that the man she loved didn't disappear forever. She deserves to feel the warmth of your return. And more than that, she deserves to never feel the cold again.